Generally, what I've noticed on the internet is that tech nerds don't have very high opinion of the Vivo V series for being offline centric and being low on specs and not offering great value. But if you've noticed closely, that's actually been changing for the past couple of years at least. Now, Vivo's working really hard to provide a good balance of specs, features, and price too. And that is specifically true for the new Vivo V27 series, the V27 and the V27 Pro. I don't know which is which because both look pretty identical. The only difference between the two is that the vanilla V27 comes with the Dimensity 7200 chip, whereas the V27 Pro comes with the Dimensity 8200 chip. Now, I'll talk about the differences in performance, but let's take a look at what's identical on these two phones, and that's basically everything else, which is basically the design, the display, the camera, the battery, you name it. If you're here for the first time, I'm Arshad, you're watching Trakin Tech English. Let's begin. Alright, the first thing that you'll notice is that both these phones have a curved panel. So you get a 6.78 inch 120Hz refresh rate curved panel with 1 billion colors, and it's an AMOLED panel as well. Bright colors, deep blacks, very good looking panel with HDR10 plus support. You get HDR support on YouTube for sure. Now when we tested the display, the color accuracy is actually pretty good if you use the professional display mode. Now if you've come this far, don't forget to hit the red subscribe button and the bell icon right next to it to get notified whenever we put out an awesome new tech video. So obviously display wise, this is a very good premium panel, and when you take it outdoors, the sunlight legibility is good and there is no visible color shift either. And it's not just the display that's good, the phone is also a looker. So the color material finish or CMF is actually very good. It's a glass back which is also a color changing back. Now color changing might feel like a gimmick to many, but it's actually good looking because this light color of magic blue turns into a dark one when you take it in the sun or when you expose it to UV light. And for what it is worth, you also get a case inside the box which you can flaunt. What I specifically like about the design is that these phones are slim at 7.4 millimeters and they weigh about 180 grams, so the in-hand feel is very, very good and they don't really weigh you down when you're actually using it. And considering these are big phones with 6.78 inch display, the good in-hand feel actually makes a lot of difference. Apart from that, you also get a Type-C port at the bottom and a stereo speaker setup and no headphone jack. Now the stereo speaker setup actually works with the earpiece. When I tested it, it is rich sounding, but the only problem is that the earpiece is much softer compared to the actual speaker, and therefore there is definitely a channel imbalance that you can hear. Take a listen for yourself. By the way, one thing I forgot to mention is that you get an in-display fingerprint scanner. It's very fast to unlock, but the haptic feedback is not that great. I've seen phones in this price category with good haptic feedback. This one's soft. Now, one reason how these phones are actually slim and light is because you get a smaller, comparatively smaller 4600 mAh battery compared to 5000 mAh batteries on many other phones. Now, this battery can charge from 0 to 100 in about 40-45 minutes using the inbox 80 watt charger, but this 80 watt charger charges at a top of 66 watts. Battery life wise, what I noticed is that the V27 has slightly better battery life compared to the V27 Pro. It can last a little more than a day, primarily because the V27's Dimensity 7200 chip is more power efficient. Which brings me to the performance of the individual SoCs inside. Now the Dimensity 7200 is a very interesting chip. It is definitely more powerful than the Snapdragon 778G Plus, and you get Antutu scores of about 6.25 lakhs. In comparison, the Dimensity 8200 can touch about 8.5 lakhs. Now that's Antutu, but what I like about the Dimensity 7200 in particular is its system stability. I tested 3D Mark Wildlife stress test on both these phones, and I definitely got better system stability or GPU stability on Dimensity 7200 because it's not as powerful and it's not pushing for as many frames compared to Dimensity 8200. In fact, the V27 Pro also runs slightly hotter when you're playing longer gaming sessions compared to the Dimensity 7200. But you do get higher graphics settings possible, whether you're playing Call of Duty or whether you're playing Apex Legends. You get slightly higher graphics settings on the Dimensity 8200 because the GPU quality is better. But I think that longer sessions for slightly reduced, graphics performance is a good trade-off on the Dimensity 7200. And the fact that the V27 is about 5,000 rupees cheaper than the V27 Pro sort of helps its cause as well. Now the V27 and the 27 Pro have good 5G performance. There's one band less support, which is 6 bands on the V27 compared to the 27 Pro, which has 7 band support. But then again, Jio and Airtel work absolutely fine. You can expect up to 1 Gbps speeds on Jio, so that's good. Now finally, talking about the camera performance, and that's pretty unchanged on these two. You get a 50MP Sony IMX766V custom chip. Now V is basically Vivo's custom imaging chip and they do some sort of tweaking on it. But this IMX766 is a proven performer, and apart from that you also get an 8 megapixel ultra wide and a 2 megapixel macro camera. But what's on the front is more important. What you get is a 50 megapixel selfie camera with autofocus capabilities. Now the autofocus capabilities is a good thing because you get immediate lock-on focus when you're capturing selfies, and the kind of sharpness that you can get in selfies is really good. Plus the portrait selfies look particularly good with good edge detection as well. I've also captured a couple of low-light selfies, and even the low-light selfie performance is pretty up to the mark. I think the V27 and the V27 Pro possibly have the best selfie cameras under rupees 40,000. If you guys want me to do a proper comparison test, let me know in the comment section below. Now this Sony IMX766 sensor, what I noticed in daylight is that you get two color sciences. Basically you can shoot at natural colors or boosted colors. I actually prefer the natural color science, and that natural color science looks good for landscape shots. But when you're shooting people, the skin tones are pretty close to natural, not exactly natural, not as good as something like a Pixel or an iPhone, but still I would say very good. But what's really good when you're shooting people is the portrait mode, and there are like a lot of portrait modes, including something called a wedding photography mode or wedding portrait mode. Now I was immediate to dismiss it, saying that okay, what's the use of that? But then given in the hands of the right photographer, we did a video on our Hindi channel where we gave it to Mr. Radhakrishnan, who actually runs Pixel Village, and when he shot pictures with the V27 and the kind of portrait shots that we got, oh my god, they look absolutely stunning. So yeah, it's just about the tool. So if you use the tool and the mode right, you can actually expect some good pictures. And apart from that, we all know by now the IMX766 is a great performer in low light, and Vivo's low light capabilities generally with the algorithm are very good too. So you can see the low light pictures with and without night mode, they look damn good. Now ultra wide and macro, again, not big fans of the 8+2 setup. The 2MP macro is something that I dismiss off entirely. The 8 megapixel ultra wide on the other hand, good enough for an ultra wide angle camera, but then there are color science inconsistencies that you have to live with. Now what I do like about the Vivo V27 series is the fact that you can actually shoot 4K 60 FPS videos using the front camera. You can actually count the number of phones that can shoot 4K 60 FPS videos using the front camera in this price category, so that's definitely a good thing. But the only downside is that you can shoot stable videos using the front camera only at 1080p 30 FPS resolution. Still, the fact that you can get 4K 60 FPS video recording is pretty good. Now using the rear camera, you can shoot up to 4K 60 FPS videos as well, again without stabilization. For stabilization, you'll have to drop down to 4K 30 FPS video recording. Video recording quality is good. The sound recording quality is also good. So you can trust this phone. In fact, I'm going to recommend this phone for video recording to a lot of folks. Just ask them to stabilize it using like a gimbal or something. Now cameras, of course, they're good, but the fact that you can get the same performance on the V27 for a much lower price, I mean, that's mind-boggling. Because if you notice carefully, in this price category, if you have a Dimensity 8200 chip, then you don't have an ultra-wide angle camera. And yes, I'm talking about the iQOO Neo 7. In comparison, the Vivo V27 at least gives you an ultra-wide, a full stack camera setup along with a great performance using the selfie camera. So yeah, I mean, it is a balance between performance and camera. And I think that the Dimensity 7200 is a good performer to begin with. Now talking about software, you get FunTouchOS 13 based on Android 13 on both the phones with the promise of 2 years of software updates and 3 years of security updates. Obviously FunTouchOS, we've spoken at length about it. It can be more refined, but it's got a lot of features. A lot of people seem to be enjoying it. In fact, somebody recently told me that FunTouch does great RAM optimization. Is that really true? Do you guys think that? Let me know in the comment section below. Alright, so the Vivo V27 and the V27 Pro are phones definitely worth considering because I think with bank discounts, you can get the V27 for about 30,000-31,000 and the V27 Pro for about 35,000-36,000. And if you go to an offline store, maybe they will bundle a few other offers with it. Maybe they'll give you like a pair of headphones or something. So you should definitely go check it out. These are phones worth considering even for tech nerds. I know that the OnePlus 11R compared to the Vivo V27 Pro has a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chip. That's definitely more powerful than a Dimensity 8200. But then again, the V27 Pro is slightly cheaper and might offer better camera performance as well, which I need to test it out. So what do you guys think of the Vivo V27 and the V27 Pro? I am more excited about the V27, which I think this one is it because I don't know which one is which. Both look very identical. But the V27 is the more exciting of the two. Which one do you like? I think these are good phones. Let me know in the comment section below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.